Today, we've got the Fed minutes releasing at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is just a little bit from the time of recording this video. We've had some interesting Solana news that has, had many people led to believe that that is what's causing a little bit of a pullback in the altcoins, as well as, Bitcoin in the market in general. Bitcoin's obviously still remaining range bound, basically, or in the same area we've been in for about 3 months now. And in this update, I'm going to take a look at Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and Bitcoin and give you a technical analysis breakdown on my views on those 4 assets. As always, if you're interested in receiving these updates, among many others, in a very timely fashion, I pretty much post all my analysis, my setups, updates, outlooks, opinions, views, trading strategies, academy videos, everything in the CBO trading Discord, which is available in the link in the description area below. And it'll take you to a website that looks like this where you can get set up and signed up for today. All right, let's start off with Bitcoin here. And essentially, if you've been, kicking it with me for the last few months here. We all are aware that, Bitcoin's been ranging here. When we came down into this region here, well, I'll back it up even a little bit further than that, right? When we started the quarter, Q1 of 2025, we had a key region that generated at the time, and that is the quarterly pivot from last quarter, which technically for this quarter, but what it is it's the average of price from last quarter, which is, got a high statistical hit rate to be met during the following session. So in this case, the previous quarter average likely to be met in the following session, being this quarter. So quarter 1, 2025. It's not a guarantee by any means, but it's definitely just a very key level. I always, basically, say it's similar to a moving average that does not move, right? So instead of a 200-day, this is like a 90-day moving average. But once again, does not move, stays pretty, set in stone here. And so far, and I bring that up because it's one thing, it's just, not that it's even the end all be all, like that it's, this is a big area where we'll just come down, we'll tag that and run back. At this point, I do see a couple of reasons why that may actually happen this time. But at the end of the day, it's just really more so for building, your trading plan, your trading strategy, and guiding us in the plan in that sense, right? And very, like I said, very similar to a moving average, right? And basically, above is bullish, below is bearish, right? Simple as that. So that is sitting here, and you'll notice that it's also marked as a shark target and 0.382. So when we were coming, ranging around this region here, like I said, we started off this quarter, we generated this new average, likely to be met down here. And we came down and we did this little move right here. The price action obviously was only, looking like this at the moment. I was looking to see if we'd get that, that final little push down and see if we, basically turn this into an A, B, C correction, get a move to a new all-time highs and so on. But also at the time, this is where, our trading plan ahead of time has to be kind of the idea. And then once things kind of change and new data is presented, we have to be able to execute and adapt as that, that information is coming. So for me here, what we did was we did an SFP, a swing failure pattern, a sweep, a liquidity grab, however you want to call it, of basically all the lows at the time. This took out the December low, which this was in January. So this was our previous month low at the time as well, really all the way back into some mid-November as well. But you took the lows here. Locally, we had a previous week low, and you came back up and reclaimed it. So right then and there, you had, we front ran our kind of major target at the time. And we were not looking at this as a shark target back then. But we, did that little dip. You came back up and reclaimed this region. And then from there, I was looking for a move back to 110 to 112 right off the rip. And the reason behind that was that this was a potential bearish reversal pattern that could have unfolded, right? And once again, at this time, I'm just kind of acknowledging that this is a possibility. I couldn't marry it. We could have easily rolled over. But from here, we had 2 signals that at least sign we'd get a sizable bounce, right? We took all the lows, you took the previous week low, you're starting to reclaim those levels, and I'd look for the run back up, right? We were also looking at this as far as a time window went, that this was right into the inauguration, right? So this was just a time where the news was really exciting and all those things. And generally it kind of forms, short-term traps at times. But I digress, right? So either way, this, bearish pattern presented itself. When with this comes 3 specific target areas, one of which being the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement. And all this is just literally a fib retracement from the C to D level. So this is basically a 50% retrace of this impulse move right here. We actually came down to it over here on the DeepSeek news day. From there, once again, just kind of taking the information as it comes. While overall, the next two targets are the 886 and ultimately the 113. We did get a little bounce off that 0.5. From there, that turns that into a potential 5.0, where you get a bounce at the 50% price mark. Once again, fully went through all this in the Discord. Pretty much live time with the members. But we got that bounce right there off the 5, right up to your 5.0 target right here. And then essentially what you're looking for at that point is that, same thing. Either we flip this region for the next target, or you come back down. And as soon as you lose the 0.5, there's no gold pocket support on this pattern. It's generally straight down to the 886, which is exactly what we got here on the tariff news. Okay. Then we've gotten some, ranging since then. This was pretty much just, previous ranges that, kind of formulated right here as we were going. And then we basically lost that, that 0.5 pretty conclusively. Once again, a back test up here. And from there, unless 99.5 is reclaimed to the upside, right? For me, I fully anticipate that we come down and meet the final target of this pattern, right, which is the 113, which sits at $86,000, 400, give or take. So that's our shark target. That's down here as well. That's our quarterly pivot, high time frame average of price likely to be met this quarter. And the 0.382 comes in because generally, and I've covered this multiple times, but basically when you get a really strong impulse move to the upside, a lot of times we'll look for a retracement, right? And the gold pocket, the 786, is a lot of times where many traders and analysts will look down to. I like to also focus on the 382 with a really strong move, whether it's up or down, because generally we see, a retracement to that. It's a little bit more shallow. And then that's where you actually get the continuation to the upside. Many examples of that dating back to, pretty much this whole bull run. And I'll just cover them really quickly without having to pull that up every time. But this right here was a 382 retrace continuation, 382 retrace continuation, 382 retrace continuation. One of my favorite ones is the macro one right here, right, where we actually went from the 15K low, 74-ish thousand dollar high. What did we do here? Right, same deal. 0.382 retrace continuation. So it's, not a guarantee by any means, but that is, just things that are all lined up at the moment for that $86,000 area. And I'd really just call it a zone more than anything, right? You're talking, probably 86 to 83, right? So that still remains the idea. A little bit, of note of what happened a little bit more locally here. So that's the overall analysis right now, is that we're probably going to make our way down to this 83, 86K region. That will be the next major area to note. Losing that, I'd say 80 is probably on the cards after that. That's our yearly pivot. So while we have the average of price for the quarter, for the entire last year, that sits at 80K. And a couple other, major areas down there. But I'm really not overlooking this area right here. And like I say, I really say like 83 to 86. And we'll see how, things kind of progress from there. Now locally, we had just a little sweep of the previous week low yesterday, right? We had this little move down here where we came down to about 93,300. And, once again, same deal, week after week, month over month, day over day. We get these are just the best, trades short term, right? Because you come down and like where everybody else's stop loss is, the old statement of like your stop loss is my entry. This is where that comes into, play a lot, because throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, many people are getting into positions right here once, we've already reversed from either the highs or the lows because they need a little bit more confirmation. They get too afraid at the highs or the low because, of course, the news is either really exciting or really scary. Maybe they're just not at their computers as well. But the patient person, would be waiting for a move like this. And then once again, you kind of have to gauge the reaction and look at that reclaim. And right, if we zoom in here, you can see that's exactly what we got here on the smaller time frame. Right, previous week low comes down, gets that sweep, little reclaim right there, and then so far we've just kind of been floating back up a bit. Weekly pivot, so previous week average. So once again, all these same tactics can be applied to every time frame basically. So this is a target for the week for this week. This is the average of price of last week, likely to be met. We've been really hugging on to that all throughout the week here. So 97 up here is definitely an area too where I could see us maybe pushing up to, assuming we get above the weekly pivot. But aside from that, yeah, I mean, there's still a likeliness here. I think that we, got that sweep. This definitely offered up a nice little trade here. Okay, 2-3%. Maybe we push it up to that 97K area. But ultimately, like I said, the 99.5 is my, kind of line in the sand. As long as we're below that, I anticipate the larger analysis here to be a drawdown towards that 86K region. Now, Ethereum took that really big drawdown 2 weeks ago, I'd say, down to about 2,100, and has since then just been ranging pretty sideways. So it really depending here on how Bitcoin kind of reacts here, right? But usually, I would say that we could very well. I mean, this could be the low, right? We could just be consolidating here before break higher. I've definitely been, looking to acquire ETH. I wouldn't say, be afraid of, getting into an ETH position or, picking up anything here at these levels when, we've been at 4,000 just a few months ago. But in the sense of an ideal, entry, so to speak, I would imagine that we may see a little pull down here to the local gold pocket. And that's just pulled from, simply from the low to the high here. And then maybe even as low as the 886. And the reason I say the 886 is just because generally we see, something along those lines where we get almost a full retrace. And then, like I said, it's just past the 786 where, many kind of look to that gold pocket, the 786. And once they lose that, it's, they get really fearful. This also sets up, generally a pretty good harmonic pattern at times, come back with the 886 retrace. But those are sitting there, and it's really just, it's hard to determine, how far, that's a 20% drop if we get it. It's hard to believe that, ETH would fall much further than that, just assuming Bitcoin only goes to maybe 86 or 83K. So once again, we'll have to kind of gauge the market here. But if I was to be staggering some bid zones or some areas where I'd be looking for that next major support, a great area to consider a fresh entry, I always call it. Will it be the low? Who knows, but will it be a better entry than, once again, 3,600 last couple weeks ago, $4,000 months before that? That I do think that, if you were ever interested in this asset, coming back down to really anywhere from 2,400 all the way to, and I know it's a scary thing to highlight here, is that I do have 1,600 on the chart. I don't necessarily see us getting that low. The only real true thing I could say about this area too is that when we look back at, how ETH is kind of just lined up here, is we have like just left all these lows for the whole, almost a year. Doesn't have to come down and take them. And, realistically, we've gotten huge 50% pullbacks, 2 or 3 times. So there is that. And it's kind of one of those times where if, you're waiting for the exact level and, maybe it's another 6% or 8% or 10% from where we are when we get to some of these areas here, is it worth it? I don't necessarily know, right? For me, I'd be almost DCAing into some of these key regions for the mid to long-term plays, right? And when I'm talking on, generally when I'm looking at ETH and the altcoins as a whole, like I'm never actually referring to any kind of a leverage position, unless, we're looking at potential shorts. And even then I would really suggest just doing a 1x, short, which just allows you to be able to short, right? Because you have to use a perpetual contract. So that just at least lets you, take advantage of a pullback. But yeah, the leverage is just not needed for the altcoins. But yes, I would be looking for gold pocket retracement here on ETH, potentially the 886. And then I've called it the stinkiest of bids, pretty much between 16 and 2K. I really don't necessarily know if, I wouldn't see a grand reason why we'd see another 40% drop and, make this a overall 60% fall from the high. But, crazier things have happened. So there is, I would say that there's some pretty decent reasoning why we could and would come down to here. Once again, coming down, taking last year's lows, grabbing the liquidity in the sense. We have an untapped yearly pivot, basically. So the average of price from last year is sitting here untapped. So once again, looking at that like a moving average that doesn't move, that is a very likely area to see. And the big thing that I would say if we do see something like that would be, this would be the ideal situation. Come down, take the low, reclaim that region, and kind of get that next leg higher. Now, if I'm honest, my main opinion here on ETH is that we do make a next leg higher towards the $7,500 to $8,500 area. So once again, picking up in this region here, is super ideal. I actually picked up back in September. A big piece of my position was back at 2190, and we came all the way back to it after this huge move. So, in this realm, I do think, personally, that this is where I'd be looking to position myself pretty nicely for a nice Ethereum move, which I do believe is coming, contrary to many others believe. So, all right, Solana, a very simple chart to me. Discord setup, once again, I did not short this personally. I did end up taking this short actually back here and on the way down to like 160-ish or 180, whatever it was. I did not take this one. I thought that honestly it was a little too risky when we came up and we took the all-time high for the second time. So instead, I identified this, same as Bitcoin, right? A bearish shark reversal pattern, where this is derived from a few key points. You come over here, you take the lows. You come up here, you take the highs, right? You scare everybody out. You get everybody excited. You wreck them both ways. You come down and take the lows again, and you run it back. Is pretty much what this pattern is predicated on. So for Solana, this was more so like a DCA type of idea for me. And noting that we did come up once again, lost the previous all-time high. At this point, many were probably hoping that this bullish pennant would kind of break out to the upside. It did not, came down. Same situation as Bitcoin, 3 targets, 0.5, the 0.886, and now ultimately your 113. You came down, you met your 0.5, you blew through it. What happens? No gold pocket support, right? No gold pocket, just straight to the 886, as we could see there. And then since then, we've just kind of been ranging around. At the moment, realistically, this is the key level to flip for any more upside. So as long as we're below here, personally, at least I'm targeting down here lower, and we've slowly just managed to break and continue on to the downside here. So you'll note that I've got, once again, a little box area. I got 142, 153 and could this be the exact low to the dollar? Not necessarily, but for me, I'm willing to get involved with Solana down here. If I'm looking to get a position, you're talking about a 50% retrace. Could it go lower? Of course, right? Anything could. But for me, this is something that I was, well aware of, and I was willing to wait and see if we get it. And, here we are. So for 142 to 153 is where I'm looking for Solana to come down to. And, assuming that we, get the support bounce and everything out of there, I would imagine that next leg up takes us to new all-time highs as well. My next major target personally is going to be $400 for Solana. Okay, XRP. Beginning of the video discussed how Bitcoin has an untapped high time frame average of price known as that quarterly pivot sitting at about 86K, very likely to be met this quarter. This is a beautiful example of a move that we see time and time again in all the assets, really. So XRP started off this quarter the same way, right? We began this year, 2025, with not only a previous quarter average of price, previous 6 months average of price, previous year average of price. So all of that came in stacked right here. All three of those, areas likely to be met in the following sessions. So starting off with the quarter to 6 month, really, this was a whole area I would have had to be aware for the whole year. We came up, tagged the previous all-time high, at least the all-time high, in my opinion, I'm looking at the Bitstamp chart from there. We put in a bearish reversal harmonic right into the high here. Similar to Solana, I ended up selling up here. I did not short it though, right? So once again, even for myself, there's times where these things can fail. I'm not looking at, I'm looking to preserve capital. Okay. So I ended up selling out along the way up into this region. And then I was aware of this area here. And then I had bid orders to buy back. I noted several times the key regions for DCA areas, but that I was a big buyer at 180, basically. I put it at 181. I think on Coinbase, we actually came down to like 172. And this was a 50% retrace, right? So you're talking, once again, beauty. Came quick. He had to be ready for it. So luckily, at least I was able to get some bids in down here. If you're looking for, a good opportunity, otherwise, I still think, we may come down to this region, all right? And, Bitcoin, let's just say Bitcoin pulls back a bit, XRP maybe gets a 20% hit from where we are now. That does happen quite often. Honestly, this is the local gold pocket from low to high. Then we've got the 886 right here. Once again, pointing out the 886 because, and this is just sheer speculation at the moment. But when I try to identify these ahead of time, and try to like point out and kind of build confluence so that if I am going to take advantage of this one way or the other, I shouldn't necessarily trade off of this idea until it completes. Okay, and that's one of those things where it's like, if I'm DCAing or do whatever, when we get to this level up here, assuming that this does, kind of look beautiful here for me and just comes down to this region and slowly makes our way up to here. That's how I'll kind of manage it. But this is, potentially in this box realm where the two next major supports are anyways. Not going to marry that idea by any means, but looking for, just some key, pullback areas regardless would be a gold pocket, would be the 886. And then if we do get another stab at the pivots, right, the high time frame averages, then those would be there too. There's always a level lower, but I wouldn't imagine we go that low at this time. So for now, I'd be focused, or I'd be setting alerts and ready for really 188 to like 214 XRP, and then looking for the next leg up. Personally, I see XRP hitting 370, potentially the crab zone here up to that 444, and then 489 would be the next kind of short-term targets here. 5 to 6 are like my intermediate midterm targets, if that makes sense. So anything under $2 for me is where I'm looking to pick up on the next move up. And once again, I've been in since I've traded XRP multiple times. The last trade was from a 49 to 51 cent average, ended up scaling out at 241 pretty heavily, and then the last bit at 317, and then I bought a good bit back at 50%, off essentially from the overall. Obviously, like I said, I sold a good bit right here, like 240-ish. So my average buy-in is still way lower. So when I say buying below $2, just understand also that you are buying and coming into an asset that is very much increased in price over a really short time, honestly. So if there was an asset that could really get a deep and strong pullback, you're at risk of it being this one. That's all I'll say, right? So, but the trend is our friend at the moment. So I'm looking to see if we continue it up. And one last thing I want to just touch on, I'll probably be looking at this chart over the next foreseeable, hopefully in every video. But to me, this has really been the roadmap for Altseason, right? So once again, in the Discord for the last year and a half, since November of 2023, I've been preparing for this potential move down to these regions here, and had some pops along the way. Once again, we had our decent little rallies here and there, but with that being said, and I understand that the ETH pair of BTC doesn't necessarily stand for the entire altcoin market, but generally when ETH pumps, we see a significant move in the altcoins, right? Even in December, we had this little push up here, right here, like maybe 10-12%. Can't see behind there, 24%. That was enough to push XRP and HBAR. Obviously, that during that time, we saw XRP and HBAR both rally 500% and 700%. Back here, we had similar situations back in like 2023, all the way up to the peak in March. But I highlight this because this is a potential, so far, I'd say it's pretty valid and activated, bullish reversal pattern on the ETH versus BTC pair that has taken 6 years to complete, 2019 to 2025. And you can look around and it's a picture perfect sentiment, at the low, right? ETH's never going to do anything. Altcoins in general are dead. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Technically speaking here, while we have some wiggle room even to maybe come down a little lower, because realistically, all the way down to the low here is still valid. But so far we've held this pretty well at the current region. Like I said, technically this is a really perfect BAT. All right. And BAT is predicated a lot off of the 886, basically the 886 retracement level, right, that I talked on before. And, it came down to the 0.9, so just a little bit ahead of time there. you'll note these two lines here, right here. I mapped this off based on fib time. All right, for mapping off when we could, potentially we're going to look for a bottom to this pattern or a completion. And it was from December of 2024 to end of March. Let's just call it April, really, but end of March 2025. And we can't. Not only have we beautifully and very symmetrically created this, perfect harmonic pattern, in my opinion. We did it in the perfect amount of time. The timing is here. The bottom, I wouldn't call it a bottom, but the completion, indication is there. And for me, the next thing would be and we may have to wait till like maybe that April time, right? So what is it? February. So another 4-6 weeks here. And, it's not so easy to just be like, okay, bottom is in and everything's up only. But I would say that we are potentially at a place where this is the reversal area, right? So reversals, even looking at this right here, you can see like this was an area of a low. You even came back down to it a few weeks later. But overall, right, this region was where we kind of took off from. But it had to get some runway, had to get some legs. It's not always just a straight up move. I feel like, we could see something along those lines even here. So that's why I'm pointing out these places on like Solana, on XRP, on ETH, in the Discord, I'm pointing out a ton of, fresh entry zones. If we get it, obviously others have already came and gone. When we got that drop on the 4th of February, I mean, I went shopping pretty hard myself, but this is a big deal in my opinion. You'll be hearing me talk on this for a long time. Like I said, this took 6 years to basically unfold or complete. And I won't necessarily get into how long I think we'll see a increase here, but it ain't going to be just a few months. For 6 years of this to complete, there's probably going to be, I'd say realistically, I mean, this should take, 18 to 36 months to unravel. So that puts us into years, of potentially altcoin rallies. Won't be straight up, obviously. Even this time frame here was from 2022. We saw how many things kind of come up and come down. Is there a bear market in between there? Potentially. So, it's just don't know how it's going to look down the road. But for right now, I would say that there is a heavy chance that ETH is about to rip. Once again, if you would like access to all of my analysis, my opinions, my views, my insights, how I get these charts, how I build them, the academy I've put together, everything I have to offer, please visit the CVO Trading Discord website on WAP. Link is down in the description area below. Feel free to join that. You can actually tag me, ask me questions directly. Pretty much always available in there, 24/7 posting. So it's a pretty good, fun community as well. So be sure to check that out down in the link description below. And with that being said, I hope you all have a great remainder of your day. I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. And until then, everybody, cheers.